Um, okay, so then Ian comes back into the house and he kind of helps me, and I get to a point where I think, okay, I feel like I'm ready to lay down now. I need help through these contractions. I need him to massage my back. So, Bradley method, you're breathing as deeply as you possibly can into your stomach the way you would when you're falling asleep, and your husband is massaging your back if you want that, and telling you how great you're doing, reminding you to relax all the different parts of your body and to breathe. And so he was a great coach. We went through it together. I was in bed. I felt like I was handling it pretty decently, although it had gotten uncomfortable. It was really interesting. I was curious, is Bradley method really helping me? And so I actually tried a couple of contractions where I didn't do the deep breathing and I didn't relax my body. And I would say the contractions were probably about doubly painful. So, it obviously, I still had discomfort, but it was great to realize that this method that I'm doing is reducing my pain by about 50%. I thought that was good, for a non-drug method. So anyway, we were exhausted at this point, and so we decided to try to sleep. So I would fall asleep between the contraction. And the contractions had moved to about 8 minutes apart at this point. And then I would wake up and I would say, go! And to wake up my husband, Ian would wake up, run over, start massaging my back. And we'd go through this, and then we'd both sleep between contractions. And this was the part of the labor that really kind of sucked, because we were so tired and it was horrible to wake up in the middle of a contraction. I really needed someone to be timing them and waking me up before I had the contractions. And so this is where I just so wish that we had hired a doula. Unfortunately, at the time, we couldn't really afford one, but looking back on it, that would have been something that, I think having another person there to have traded off would have been amazing. My cat, Mrs. Sparkles, was sort of acting as our doula, we said, because she stayed with us the entire time that I was in labor. It was really cool. She knew something was happening. And every time Ian would get up to come rub my back, she would take his chair. And so they ended up like switching chairs, a little musical chairs situation. Anyway, finally, by like 6 a.m., we said, okay, we've had enough of this. Let's just get up. It'll be better. So I stayed in bed, but we, woke up for the day. I did take a shower. That helped a little bit, but because I was having to stand, I did not love the shower. I labored on the toilet for a while. I ate about a half a piece of toast. I was drinking water, but in retrospect, I really should have been staying more hydrated. We weren't really thinking about that, and so that was somewhere where we kind of went wrong a little bit. But I did have a bath. The bath helped a little bit more because I was able to get water on my stomach, but we didn't have a very deep bathtub, and I just couldn't really get in a super comfortable position in the tub, so I kind of gave up on that. I think I tried another shower at one point. Again, it wasn't super helpful. But at this point, the labor really started speeding up. So I got out of the shower, and it got to the point where every time I would try to stand or walk, I would immediately have to fall to my hands and knees with a contraction. So I think my body was actually maybe trying to go into transition at this time. But because we sort of interrupted things by going to the hospital, and it was my first labor, I think I got tense and my body slowed back down the labor. So I think that's why I had a little longer labor. Anyway, we called the hospital. We told them at this point that my contractions had moved to being 3 minutes apart. So things had definitely really sped up pretty quickly, actually. And they said, okay, you can come in when you're ready. And we knew we lived a good half hour away with no traffic. And we did not want to wait until things got trafficy because, of course, in the LA area, it could take 2 hours to get there in traffic. So we decided to go ahead and go. Ian drove the car over to the edge of the parking lot. We were in apartments at the time. And so then right after I had a contraction, we just ran to the car. I got in and immediately had another contraction. I had brought a pillow, so I was holding the pillow. You could tell things really slowed down because in the half-hour ride to the hospital, I only had 3 contractions, even though my contractions had been 3 minutes apart. Then we got to the hospital. Again, in retrospect, we should have walked in, because while it would not have been fun or comfortable for me, it would have sped things back up. But they brought me the wheelchair. I got in the wheelchair. They took me up to the maternity ward. We started out going to a triage room. UCLA is a nice hospital to have a baby in, especially if you're using a midwife, as we did. And so the triage room was bigger than most delivery rooms are. It was a big room. And they evaluated me, they checked me, they said, okay, you're 4.5 centimeters, we're going to admit you. Great. They took some blood, and at this point they said, oh, well, you're actually dehydrated. And that really sucked and kind of led me down a path where, while the labor still went pretty well, this is one thing that I think if I had been hydrated, it would have been so much better, because they wanted to hook me up to an IV to give me some fluids. They said, just half a bag if that's all you want. I said, sure, okay, if I need it, we'll do it. However, the bag of fluids, it felt cold going in my veins, and it made me very cold, and it made me get the shakes, get shivery. And shaking made me unable to completely relax my body like you're supposed to do with Bradley method, which made me feel more pain. So this really sucked. Also, the stupid IV was in my hand, and it was very bothersome and uncomfortable to me. So I wish I had been more hydrated so that I hadn't had to do that. But it was okay. They did an ultrasound. They saw that the baby was head down and ready to go.